So, who's the best Violetta Valerie, which means La Traviata? Who's been the best Traviata ever? Ooh, by far, I think that's one of the most, or one of the trickiest questions that one can attempt to answer. Of course, and maybe I should put this image away because I am giving you part of what some people pretend to answer to this question. But Traviata is by far one of the favorite roles of the whole operatic repertoire, along with Mimi and La Boheme, and maybe I was about to say Rigoletto, but no, Rigoletto falls a little bit behind, and maybe Il Barbiere di Siviglia are three of the top most recurring operas worldwide, and a part of the greatest favorites, of course. Um, Going back to La Traviata, I think here most of people are familiar with Traviata, of which I would like to point out to the main numbers. Well, Violetta is singing the whole time. She's basically 80% of the time on stage. Whether singing or not, she's on stage. The first number, of course, the Liviamo, Liviamone lieti calici, the very famous Brindisi in La Traviata. Liviamo, tara, and of which, by the way, we already have the episode on the podcast, recently aired, if you want to look for it. Then she goes for the duet with Alfredo Germont, de Undi Felice Eterea, and then she would have, well, uh, another part, let's call it a transition, the transition where she accepts to continue, if not dating, at least accepts that Alfredo meets her often, at least the following day, and then she will be left alone for her long, very long scene that starts with the strano, strano, and then she will continue with the part that everybody loves and that we have to accept that Maestro Verdi chose a very spectacular way of closing up this first act, where we have the Sempre Libera, and then on the second act, she is going to sing the long duet with Giorgio Germont, and then she will have this short duet with Alfredo. And then we will have the scene at the party where she will be very nervous. She will be in a very dramatic position as Alfredo has arrived to the party, which, by the way, is a very difficult part. Very few people pay attention to that, but it is very, very difficult from the emotional and the vocal perspective. That's a very difficult part. And then we will have the final concertante, where all the voices meet after she has been humiliated by Alfredo. And then we have the final part, which of course opens with her very sad aria Addio del Passato, and then we will have a very long scene where she sings once Alfredo returns, and her final part when she dies on stage. So of course La Traviata is one of the most extenuating roles ever written for a soprano. We have also addressed in a post in Kofi, in a blog entry, about the type of soprano that needs to be singing this role, and the common confusion around having three sopranos for singing Violetta Valerie. But putting all that aside, let's go back to our question of attempting to answer who could be the best Violetta Valerie ever. And by far, I don't think we are able to answer to that question, because not only we have to put on the balance how much weight does the technical or the quality of the voice are being measured, but also the beauty of the voice and our personal preferences towards one or other voice. So again, the typical name of Callas. Callas was the best Violetta ever. Yeah, but only the Violettas after the 1955s, because the prior Violettas are way too heavy for the Violetta Valerie. Oh no, Tebaldi did well, even though she didn't sing it often. Oh no, but Sutherland sang as spectacular. But Caballejas, and you no, but Flaming recently. But what about Anna Netrevka? And so you can keep the list going and going and going and going forever, and probably nobody will ever reach the answer that leaves satisfied everybody as to who could be considered, if even, yeah, I would even challenge that question. Is it really worth to ask who's been or who is the best Violetta, the best Traviata ever? Can we not just understand that we may have a beautiful voice, but that falls short in the ornaments in the first act, but that does very well in the second and on the third? Or maybe we have a much lighter voice that performs correctly at the beginning of the opera, but that unfortunately falls short in the second and the third. Maybe we just need to accept that singers are humans, and that maybe that perfect singer doesn't exist for La Traviata role, which doesn't mean that we haven't had excellent sopranos performing this role. And so that's how I ran into this video that I am putting back on the screen again, where you know that the way to catch many views is to use sensationalism and use these titles that tend to exaggerate everything. The thing that called my attention is that you may have already noticed that I did an entry on the Elena Suliotis, who is for many people the successor of a copy of Maria Callas, but Anna Moffo was also known for many people as the fake Callas. For many people, Anna Moffo, with a very with a voice of a much lesser quality than Callas of Suliotis, she attempted to be Callas, but was for many people a poor copy. And in fact, the entry that I did for Suliotis, in fact, was going to be for Anna and Suliotis, but at the end, I decided that I was keeping only Suliotis. And that's pretty much how I ran into this video with Anna Moffo. What called my attention is because we have also mentioned it in other entries, either written in Ko-fi or in these recent video entries in YouTube, that unfortunately, the internet is plagued with way too many platitudes, or irrational, or just a matter of taste that really does not provide any rationale behind the decision. And that's because I find that Anna Moffo is the most beautiful woman of the century, which I find difficult to believe. Of course, if you know Anna Moffo, and now that you're seeing her on stage, of course she's a beautiful, beautiful woman. But to say that she's the most beautiful woman of the century, of the 20th century, is by far an excess. But of course, it called the attention, and of course, many people watch the video based on watching the most beautiful woman and asserting that she's the best in the world, Violetta, in capital letters to call the attention. Of course, we can see that this is an excess on the author, on the owner of this channel. But well, but what called my attention even further is that I started reading some of the comments, which I usually don't do, as I have also shared in the past. I really detest the toxicity and the common competition that one person wants to be or know the smart guy in the comments of the video. So that's something I really detest. But this time I took enough some minutes to watch on this. So some of them are in English, some of them are in Spanish. I am going to read this one that is in Spanish because this really called my attention. And he says that based on his personal point of view, the very beautiful Anna Moffo will always be the most beautiful and the best Violetta. So in this round logic, he's providing no support or there is no rational. He's just saying that because she's the most beautiful, she's the best Violetta. But I would like to ask, yeah, but why is that? I mean, what is it that Anna Moffo did that puts her ahead of many other extraordinary singers? There is another, which of course, it's another from my perspective, an exaggeration because she says that Anna Moffo is the Violetta. So if you like René Fleming, Netrebko, Callas, Victoria de Los Angeles, or whoever is it that you like, forget it. Uh, Providing no reason for it, he says that Anna Moffo is the Violetta ever. There is another one that I wanted to read for you. Here it is. I already passed. Uh, she's a supreme goddess. Oh, so with videos in the internet, with this sensationalism and plagued with platitudes, I don't think we are really any closer to finding the best Traviata here. But I'm going to play for you a few seconds of her ornaments of in the Sempre Libera for you to decide if this is by far the best ornaments that you have ever heard in the voice of Violetta Valery. For I think that that's enough for many of you. You can, of course, you can always watch the complete video and decide for yourselves. Remember, or you can see that this is a filmed version, so she had everything on her side to make it even brighter. And you also know that I don't like this type of recordings where the engineers can do anything to facilitate their lives. Maybe we can look for a live recording of or rendition of hers in Sempre Libera and make our own decision. And also, it's up to you to answer to this question for you who is the best Traviata, at least for your taste.